Missoula, Montana. Welcome back to another episode of the Missoula Podcast. I'm Brandon Smith in studio with
Stephen Russett. Hey, Brando.
Dude, 50 episodes. Congratulations.
Yeah, that's incredible that we've had that many people and we've made it this far.
Yeah.
It's a big milestone.
Yeah. Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our guests. Thank you, Stephen, for showing up every week. What a journey it's been.
Yeah.
Some really cool people met along the way.
We got a long ways to go as well. We got lots of stories to get to.
Amazing stories, amazing people coming up on the pod. It's really excited for what's next.
Yeah. Well, episode 50 is a great milestone, Brandon, and I love doing this with you.
Yeah.
And most of the time we come into these episodes and we introduce our guests and they're here in studio with us today. But we kind of got caught up in the middle of a conversation. Nick happened to press play, so we just let it roll.
Yeah. To the listener, if you're just tuning in for the first time and don't have a history with the podcast, typically what we like to do is bring on a guest, highlight them, get to hear their backstory, who they are, how they ended up in Missoula, hear about their connections, their favorite restaurants, coffee shops. This week, we had Lowell Hochhalter from the Lifeguard Group in studio. And we just began visiting and the conversation got deep pretty quick. And Nick, our producer, hit record and just captured it. And it's a phenomenal episode, an incredible conversation that goes places.
Yeah, I just want to give a warning to any parents out there or kids that are listening to the show. There's some pretty intense stories and situations that involve human trafficking. It's all real. It's all stuff that we need to be aware of, but it is heavy. And it was very heavy having this interview with Lowell. So just as a disclaimer up front, prepare yourself.
It's really good. It's real. It's authentic. It's genuine. It's painful, explicit perhaps. But Lowell Hochhalter is the CEO, director, and founder of the Lifeguard Group, with their website highlights that they are there to bring an end to human trafficking, and they are fighting daily. And again, the stories you're about to hear are real, genuine, and just happen to be a conversation that got recorded. So with that, here's episode 50 of the Missoula Podcast with Lowell Hochhalter.
My wife turned 60, I'll turn 59. Mm-hmm. And you start thinking to yourself, 80, 85 be a good long life. It's only 20 some years left.
Right.
You know, and you start going, ooh, you need to do something.
Right.
You know, get something done.
50, it blows my mind.
Yeah.
When do you think about getting something done? What is that like? What comes up in your mind? That thing that you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Being satisfied, you know, when you lay down on that, last bed going, I'm satisfied, you know. I think that's the thing that horrifies me the most. Thinking going, oh my gosh, what have I accomplished? You know, what is the worth?
Yeah.
You know, of all this?
What's the impact you made?
You know, the busy, I mean, we can all be busy. We can all, you know, do what have you. But busy isn't success. That's for sure. I've learned that. It's, you know, busy is just busy.
Mm.
And I don't want to be just that busy guy. I want to be able to lay there and go, yeah, you know, did something good.
Mm-hmm. When did you get the thought or the leaning or leading to jump into the trafficking game? How did that occur?
Well, just to give you a context, this is not my choice. This would not be my vocation of choice, even to this day.
Well, I can imagine not.
I mean, it is not
crazy to want to do that.
Well,
what would be your choice? What is the dream?
I'd still like to be traveling, doing schools all over the world. You know, things seem to be started to open up. And in fact, I took a trip to India and I was doing schools. And I remember sitting in the hotel in Bangalore, India, thinking, wow, I can't believe I'm here, doing school assemblies in Bangalore, India. And some of the guys that I had gotten to meet while I was there had mentioned that one of the nights they wanted me to go out on the street with them. Well, in my mind, we're going to go out, get some street food. We're going to see the city, see the backside of things,
The local stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was all about it. So it came to that day and they said, you want to, is tonight the night? Are you tired? I'm like, no, let's go. I was there by myself. The glamour of this traveling and speaking, you've got an hour and a half on stage with a microphone. That's all great. But then you sit in the motel, it's lonely as heck, It's when you sit there and contemplate, you're like, yeah, my family's at home. I'm missing this. I'm missing that. This is supposed to be, where's the fans, right? And all that. And that's not there. And so when the opportunity came, I was like, yeah, let's go. Let's do something. And so out we went, and they picked me up in a van, a white van, right? They
offer you some candy.
Yeah. So they picked me up, and it was odd because in India, every vehicle's small except for the big trucks. There's small vehicles, and then there's huge vehicles. Construction, everyone's got a horn of their own tone and tune. And they picked me up in this white, I don't know if it was a Chevy or Ford van, 15 passenger style van. And I thought, well, that's odd. That doesn't even fit here, in this culture. And so I jumped in the front seat, and they're like, you ready to go? And I'm like, yeah, let's go. Like, we're going to see first. And we're going down, we're in the main hub of the city. And it's a culture shock anyway, raw meat hanging in right out there in the open, chickens, beef, pork, and not so much pork, but, and then, pretty soon the band pulls over and they jump out, engage this woman standing there. They open the sliding side door and this woman starts getting in. Well, my instinct is like, well, I'm going to jump the seat back, give this woman a place to sit. So this woman with her child jumps in. Well, now I'm moving back from engaging with these guys. I'm like, what are we doing? And we just keep going. We pull over, pull in a couple of kids, pull another woman in. Now I'm in the back far corner of this van. I have transgressed all the way to the back of this van. And we're full capacity. In India, it's not, how many seats per seat, but it's like how many people can you cram in that vehicle? And we start driving out. Well, I can't even, I'm just like, what is going on here? This is not, what is going on? And we get out in what we would maybe say is the country, which there's not much open space there. And these women all start getting out. These kids start getting out, and they're running towards these buildings. And there's some other Caucasian folks there. And finally, I can engage them. I'm like, what is going on? And they're like, well, these are trafficking victims. I'm like, what? They're being, sex trafficked, being forced to sell themselves for sex, with their kids, or these kids are being sold. And I was completely ignorant. I was like, what? And they start explaining trafficking to me, human trafficking, sexual exploitation. And I'm like, what? And I'm just horrified.
Right.
And we fill that van 4 times that night and make 4 trips out to this safe house. Like, this is not what I thought we were going to do. And a little bit uptight of like, somebody could have filled me in what we're doing. And I don't even think we had dinner. Honestly, I I was actually thinking about that. I don't think we even got dinner. They put me back to the hotel, and I am just, I don't know, grossed out,
Yeah.
thinking,
Of
I got to
course.
get out of this country. This is putrid. And I had, I think, 2 or 3 days of schools left. And that thought process is in my mind, like, what is going on? And I came home and kind of tried to explain to Tammy a little bit, what I saw. And then I was like, I am going to completely erase this out of my mind. Thank God for America,
Mhm.
Mm.
And one of those guys came back to the US and had contacted me and talked about, he's thinking about opening a anti-trafficking group here in the US. He said, I think I'd really like you to be a part of that. I said, no, there's no way. I want nothing to do with that at all. I've had my fill, and that's more than I ever cared to know about it. And he's like, man, you could produce a school assembly and we could be in front of students and warn them. And I'm thinking, in the United States? And I remember talking to Tammy about it, and I said, there's just no way. I mean, we got the 3 girls, and I can't be in that kind of headspace. I mean, I literally wanted nothing to do with it.
Mm.
And not much has changed, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it's, you see everything differently, and then you start to research and you start to meet people and be personally engaged with them that are in that life and what they've had to deal with. And instead of America, you're like, oh my gosh, what have we done? What have we allowed?
Mm.
And it took 3 years. And I guess it really came down to I don't know if you'd call it a philosophy or a life moment, but everything changed when I realized that God was taking what I thought was my excuse to not be involved, and he turned it and made it my reason. And I thought, well, if it'd be for my 3 daughters, then that's a battle I could fight. And so we dipped our toes in and thought, well, we'll help. We'll help. And we started getting involved here and there, started thinking about what could a school assembly. Well, Tammy orders these books from, online. I mean, she just went online and just anything that was trafficking, she ordered. I mean, we got a box of books. And that night we're sitting in the living room and she cuts open this box and she's going to unload all these. I mean, she's excited. Who's not excited to open a big box from Amazon, right? It's like, hey, Christmas every day.
Yeah.
And she opens this box and the first book she pulls out, I see her, she drops her head and she starts weeping, like soulfully weeping. And I'm thinking, what in the world? And which is kind of my feeling anytime I see books. I mean, that's not my world anyway, right? So
kind of made sense.
And so I'm kind of sitting there watching, and it was a solemn moment, really, for her. And finally, she picks up this book, I would say after 3 or 4 minutes of just uncontrollable weeping. And she picks it up and she flips it around. And the title of the book was Renting Lacey.
Jeez.
Well, that's our 3rd kid's name. And she looks at me and she goes, we're doing this, aren't we? And I was like, yes, we are. And so it was that moment that we decided that must be what this time was supposed to be. And so we got involved with this organization. They started in New Jersey, and then they moved from New Jersey to Vegas. And I didn't want to disrupt my kids, So I was just more commuting and meeting the team wherever we were at, whatever Super Bowl, whatever major event, whatever school. And we built a safe house for kids. Some guy donated us this property down in Missouri, and we got it all finished. And for whatever reason, the director of that organization decided that he was going to sell it after we had gotten it all complete. And I was actually driving. I was actually doing a death notification for the sheriff's office up in Sealy. And I was driving back, and my phone rang, and I looked down as the director of this organization. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to take this call, I got to pull over, right? Because right past Placid Lake, you don't got service for a while. So I pulled over. I'm sitting looking at Placid Lake. We're having this conversation. It's when he tells me, he's like, yeah, I sold the Oasis, is what we called it. And kind of moved on to the next topic. And I like, what? And it was something that I could hold on to, that because it was more than just the horrid side of things, it was the hope side of things. And it was something that I felt spoke life instead of dealing in the death all the time. And he's like, yeah, it just became quite a hassle. And I thought to myself, yeah, it will always be a hassle. Like, at what point is this be like, this is
Right.
like, we're in the good zone now. And I just told him, I said, I'm out. I'm done. I can't do that. And I didn't talk to Tammy about it. I didn't talk to anybody about it. Just made that. And I thought, this not only am I out, but this is my out. Like, I've been offended, and this is a justified out for me. And it was probably 3 or 4 weeks. And I had a dream, I don't know, years before that started reoccurring. And I had started a 501c3 in I'd say 2004, because I had this dream. So I got a 501c3 and called it the Lifeguard Ministries. You even helped me with the logo way back when.
I remember that.
And I thought this was just going to be, for some evangelistic stuff with the church or my school stuff. And this dream started reoccurring. And it goes back to, in the dream, it's too long to bring up here, I'm sure. But in this dream, I come upon this lifeguard stand. And on this side of the stand, there's nobody there. And on the side of the stand, there's the sign, swim at your own risk, no lifeguard on duty. And so when this dream started reoccurring, I'm like, what is going on? What's, is God reviving this? What was and bringing it back, and circumstances and people speaking in my life. And it's when we started the Lifeguard Group and realized that somebody needs to sit in that lifeguard stand. We just can't look at this generation and be like, well, good luck, swim at your own risk. And we don't have time to sit and watch. And so we decided that we wanted to focus our efforts on the small rural communities like we grew up in. That all these women that we were finding, all these people that we were finding at Super Bowls and Sturgis and the major events that we were working, they weren't coming from these major metropolitan areas. They're coming from small rural communities, being groomed and recruited. And we thought, what if we could stop this before it started? What if we could educate kids? What if we could educate parents? But still at the same time, knowing that the numbers had so escalated that you couldn't just go, well, the lost are lost. We're going to just now focus on that no more get lost. And so that's when we started the Lifeguard Group. And of course, then the next day, the call comes in from a family saying, our kid's missing and can you help us find her? From a small rural community, obviously, here in Montana. So that's kind of, I guess, the shortest I could at least explain how it all got started.
When you say you're in India and I want to go back home, it's not like this in the United States. There's no way. And then the director reaches out to you and says, hey, will you help us plant here in America? We hear all the time, sex trafficking, human trafficking, it's happening. It's prevalent in America. Can you break it down? Just audience here. Like, is that happening in Western Montana? Is it happening in our communities, or is it just, it's out there or is it affecting us here in our community?
I'd say all of that is pretty true. And, human trafficking looks different depending on where you're at. In Montana, human trafficking, the major on-ramp, I would say, for a kid whose life, is found in an exploitive place, the number one on-ramp is familial trafficking. So it's parents, families trafficking their own. And that takes it to another really dark place. And, it changes, it changes how you strategize and so now you go into a school and you realize, I've got to realize that I'm standing in front of students who more than likely are being exploited by the one place that should be safe. When I first started in this, we used to say, we want to help these victims get back home. We realize now we can't say that because at least where we all have our roots right now, that's the breeding ground. That's the pit. And so, it feels hopeless. You're like, well, then what? Well, then, if you don't have that basis, like for me, like this was never my life, you get these guys that are like, I'm a survivor and, and this is, I've got a passion for this. And I grew up in such a fantastic home. I didn't deal with any of this. So to relate to that, that's the broken piece for me, right? The bridge goes so far and then there's this big gap of construction and then there's the exploited. And I've spent the last 15 years trying to build this gap full to try and get there to go, what is going on? And, we've done a lot of school presentations in schools of 30 kids total, which we have a lot of those in Montana.
Sure.
Our Class C schools, right? 6-man, 8-man football. And then we've got our bigger schools. And we've been in the smallest of the small. We've been in Metro Detroit, 6,500 kids in a gymnasium, right? And you have this little square in the middle and you're spinning around going, this is not effective communication. You've got screens and you're ducking around. But we have not been in a school that we have not had a kid come up and self-identify that they are being trafficked. Doesn't matter what size of school. And so is it happening in Western Montana? Oh, absolutely. In Montana, since 2015, we've seen an 800 and some % increase in trafficking. And there's an argument out there, right, of some saying, well, some of that's because there's more awareness. People are finding out more. There's more groups like the Lifeguard Group that are out there doing more. And so we're, it's stirring up the soil, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's others going, well, no, it's a profitable criminal enterprise. And as a criminal, why wouldn't you? I mean, a pimp with 2 girls can easily clear $400,000 to $500,000 a year, unreported, right? When it comes to drugs, if I sell, if I travel to Denver, if I travel down to Mexico and I buy, fentanyl pills for 90 cents a pop, I bring them up and I sell them on our reservations or in our major metropolitan areas, I can sell them for $8 to $9 a pill. But I still have to remanufacture that good. I've got to go back. But if I have a human being, I can sell her over and over and over and over and over in one night and just replicate it the next day and the next day. In 4 years, 5 years, after she's not useful to me anymore or he's not useful to me anymore, I just eliminate it and move on to the next, because the grooming process and the recruitment, in America, we have opened the door and we've just, cyber wise, the door is wide open for grooming. I tell parents all the time, you give me unfettered access to your child's social media, phone, and I'd say out of any school, 30 to 40% are actively being recruited or groomed presently. And parents have no idea. And it's not in the yes, there's hidden apps and there's ways that kids can communicate. There's, the Snapchats, there's all these things that, the picture's there and then it disappears, the message there and it's gone. But the majority of the time, it's not even in like a messaging app. It's right out there on their wall, right to read. And unfortunately, parents don't find that until we get the phone call. My kid's gone. I don't know what's going on with my kid. This is happening. We're like, have you checked their social media? Well, kids have privacy. I'm like, they shouldn't have. Not there. A kid has privacy when they're changing their clothes, when they're bathing. But otherwise, there's no privacy. That doesn't make sense in parenting. There's no privacy in parenting. And so, why wouldn't right now we're looking at human trafficking is the second leading criminal enterprise in the world. $150 billion industry, if not more. Of course, they're all estimations. There's nobody, pimps aren't filling out their
They're 1040 filing a tax return.
They're not paying workman's comp. They're not filing. And on the other side, victims aren't raising their hands going, hey, this is happening to me.
Totally.
Why? Because of the grooming process, the shame that's there, and that's the hook, right? The hook is the shame. And once they can get them online, whether it's a nude picture, whether it's a comment, whether it's a video, and they hook them with the shame, it's done. The hook is set. And I've talked to victims who, because of one video, consensual video maybe, but somebody took that and exploited that, it cost them 11, 12, 13 years of their life until they realized I can break from this. There is no shame. And if there is, I'm going to deal with it now and live free later. But it's so dark and so the stigma is, it took a long time even for our law enforcement, right, to change mentalities for us as human beings, right? Just even on TV and Hollywood, right? That dirty horror, that instead of recognizing, hey, that's a person. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people, listen, we can deal with this in two ways. One's effective, one is not. The ineffective, we can say human trafficking, we can box it up, we can talk about the statistics, talk about all the numbers, and we can put that in the box, which we do to survive as human beings, right? We compartmentalize things. We box it up, and we can even slap a nice label on it that matches all the other problems, and we should shelve it and step back from it. And when we do that, it allows us to go, who's going to take care of that problem? Government needs to do more. Cops need to do more. Thank God we got nonprofits to do more. But if you're willing to pull that box off the shelf and open it and put the numbers to the side and put the statistics and all those things, you realize what we're talking about is somebody's daughter, somebody that somebody loves. You know, I've got 3 daughters. I've got a wife and a mom. I'm not an expert in women, but I'm kind of in that associate's degree place, right?
It's pretty good.
Yeah. Pretty advanced.
Yeah.
And I will stand on this, that there's not a woman on the face of the earth that ever thought to themselves, you know, I'm going to sell my body. And that's what I was put on this earth to do. And I don't see it. My mind can't get there. I've talked to thousands of victims and survivors. There's something that made that choice for them. And, you know, so it's breaking those mindsets and those stigmas as a culture. You know, that's not just that's just a whore, right? That's just a prostitute. You know, even changing our language, you know, we don't talk about women as prostitutes. We instead turn with those that are being prostituted.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's really no such thing as child trafficking or a child prostitute, because it almost gives this subconscious connotation that she got herself in that situation, and you know, it's where life directed her, it's what she chose. And so just changing, you know, your vernacular and the way you talk about it, and helping people get to that place and getting past those stigmas to realize that we're talking about victims that do not want to be in this place. But you've got to get them to that place first, you know, because they've been, a lot of them, manipulated to where they think, well, you know, even a survivor. I've talked to so many and heard their stories years later, like 20 years later, when they're in a great place. And they'll tell you their story, and they'll talk about the person that exploited them and did these horrible things to them. And they'll always put a comma in there and say, but you know, I did get in the car. You know, I did respond. You know, I did engage. And so I've got to, I'm like, I mean, years later, not recognizing, like, this was done to you. This was not your choice. That was robbed from you. And, you know, we've got a safe house full of women that's their first battle of getting to the place of, I am a human being deserving of a future and a hope of something great for me. I deserve everything that everybody else has. I'm not a criminal. I'm not a slut. I'm not a whore. I'm not a terrible person. I'm a human being that deserves the good in life. And that's the process. That's where the process begins when after the rescue. The rescue's easy in perspective. Yeah. It's the recovery restoration piece you guys haven't asked many questions. I keep yackling
right. I just realized.
No, this is great.
We started recording. Wow, here we are.
Has recent exposure from like movies like Sound of Freedom helped?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah. And what have you, like, man, I know you got to sit in the mud, and I'm trying to stay here in the mud as long as I can with you, but I am looking for some sort of hope. So what has the hope been since more exposure has gotten out and movies like that, and people know that it's at their doorstep? Can you enlighten us a little bit on that? The question came out really poorly.
No, it's a great question, actually. And yeah, and just so you guys know, like, you will forever be in the mud now. Like, you're in. I mean, you don't forget these conversations. Right. You know, you don't. You can't. Like, how do we move on from this? You don't move on from this. When you know.
Can't claim ignorance anymore.
No. And, you know, we always go back to William Wilberforce, right? One of the greatest abolitionists in the first abolition of slavery, stood in front of the parliament that we walked by together and tried to convince other parliamentarians that these massive ships are taking African men and women to the West Indies and they're being enslaved. And he's getting shouted down, right? They're calling him, like, and finally he stops and he looks at them and he says, "You may choose to look the other way, but never again can you say you did not know." And, you know, it's like, look at your hands. You'll see the blood there. This is not a government issue. It's not a law enforcement issue. This is a human being issue. Like, we are all culpable, especially here in the United States. Wow, we're pointing fingers, and I was one of them, right? India, I got to get out of here. This is disgusting. We're pointing at Thailand, Cambodia, Indonesia, and like, how can these countries, and even from a government standpoint, we're putting embargoes. You know, your human rights are terrible. Like, we're not going to trade with you because you need to get this under. All the while here, right underneath our noses, it's just like growing, and we are cultivating an environment that brings this so alive. And when you have people that are willing to stand up, like Jim Caviezel and those that, you know, stepped forward to produce a movie like that. When I heard that he was coming out with a movie, number one, I knew enough about him to know that whatever was going to come his way, he was like, bring it. Not in some sort of cocky, you know, chauvinist way, but he's relegated himself to that. Like, all right, I've been here before.
Yeah.
You know, after he did Passion of the Christ, I mean, but you get to that place, and, you know, he's willing to come out, and I thought, oh man, it's gonna, like, if it's ever hit the fan, it's gonna hit the fan for him now. And the movie was so well done, and I felt like they did enough Hollywood to make it, although it was an anti-Hollywood movie. But I mean, you got to sell tickets. I mean, if you're going to put it out there. And the story of Ballard, and, you know, and of course there were people chipping their teeth about him, and which, once you get on this side of it, you know, as we've learned, people start chipping their teeth because I don't know why. I wish I knew why, but, you know, everybody, the accusations of conspiracy theorist, and you're blowing things out of proportion. But I would say the majority, especially after that movie, their eyes started opening. But there again, as Americans, we're like, see what's going on over there? And, you know, just that, it allows us again to step back. You know, we're protected by the border, right? Or whatever border that might be. So but it did engage some folks, kind of about the same level as Taken did. But Taken, you know, a certain set of skills, and it, you know,
it's more of an action movie.
Yeah, more of action. But, you know, and that I don't know how many trainings I've done, but people are like, well, you know, what about the movie Taken? It comes up every time. Does that happen? Yeah, it happens, but it happens. I'd rather have that sort of attack on someone I love, because then I can engage that. The instincts kick in right away. The scary side of it is the subtlety and the engagement of our kids that is much more subtle, much more dangerous, and we are so ignorant of it. whether it's online or relationships that we allow our kids to make, or the people that we allow into our lives that are dangerous people, are bad people. And, we're being so, I don't know if we're being desensitized or resensitized. How dare you put a label on somebody that they're bad or that they're dangerous. Well, you got to call things for what they are, and there are bad people that have no business engaged with your family in any way.
Mm-hmm.
And if that makes me a bad person, then I'm okay going to my grave having offended one to protect many.
So Brandon and I have daughters.
Mm-hmm.
You have daughters. I love what you said earlier about outside of, they don't have privacy in the home outside of, changing or bathing,
Mm-hmm.
being all up in their social media. Is there other things that we can do? My daughter's 10, got an 11 and a 15-year-old.
16. I
16.
just got to correct that because when she listens back, she'll get mad at us.
You will
She's
not
at that
hear the
stage,
end of it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
16 and 11.
What other things can we do to protect our daughters?
Constant engagement with your kids, like everything. There is nothing that they do that you are not into. If your kid starts playing softball, I'm telling you, you are into softball. If they start whatever, if they start swimming, if they just like, again, in trainings, how many of your kids are in social media? Everybody's hands go up. Like, how many people here in social media? Right. Well, they take the valiant, I don't got time. I'm so busy. I don't have time for social media. My dad used to call it the Facebook,
That's what my dad
so-and-so reach out to me on the Facebook and sent me a message. I'm like, well, actually, Dad, they sent that message to everybody. Everybody sees that. You just happen to see that message. But the number of parents whose kids are, as we know, like engrossed in social media that have no concept of what's going on. I don't have time for Facebook. I'm like, if your kids have time for Facebook, you got time for Facebook or Instagram or Snapchat, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have time for it. And if you don't, we like in Montana, right? If our kid wants to go hunting under the age of, is it 16 or under 18? They got to go to hunter safety. They got to get all these certifications.
18, yeah.
Right? They have to have this, but yet we go to the store, we buy this, and we hand it right to them. And we give them a little speech, right? Don't you do this? Back in the day, you got 10 minutes. Don't you go over minutes. Don't you go over data. But they take this weapon in their room. They take this weapon everywhere they go, and it's unchecked. Nobody has to certify them. No, it's unchecked. And anybody can reach out to them. Anybody can reach out to them. And what kid doesn't want to be able to say, look at all the friends, look at all the followers. And so anytime they get a
human nature,
connect.
Sure. Like our junior high school years, we strive, like we want to fit in so bad.
Yeah.
So just finding somewhere to be accepted and told you're valued and
And whatever picture comes up, there's that belief of that's who that is.
Right.
And yes, we want our kids to be kids, and we want them to, like, I don't want my kids to walk around life questioning every person they meet. On the other side, I want my kids to walk around questioning every person they meet and wondering, what's your purpose? What's your story? What's your angle? What brings you in my circle? Vigilance is the, you can't, and this as a father, you can't fail. Like there's no option to fail in this. And there's other chances, but there's not other chances. We know that decisions and actions that we take, the consequences, and these are consequences I don't want my kids to have to face and say, well, we'll work through it on the other side.
No.
Number one, you don't know if there's another side.
Right.
You don't know if it's going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Vigilance. I don't know of any other, like it's your mortal enemy. Is your daughter being trafficked? No, they're not being trafficked. But as a father, as the warrior on their behalf, the mindset is like, I will destroy anything and anyone that would come to steal that life and the life that, as a father, that I want for them. Like, I will step in and do whatever it takes.
You sound like Liam Neeson right there.
Well,
I will find you.
Yeah. Well,
and I will kill you.
Yeah. And that's the mentality, you know? I mean, I've had arguments, like public arguments in these sessions, like over the privacy thing. Parents are like, my kids have got to have privacy. I want them to know that they have this, that I have that trust to them.
But doesn't it also almost become a I don't know, not a crutch, but becomes a problem because we just use an excuse. Just kids being kids. You know them. Just kids will do whatever.
Yeah. Kids are stupid and expensive.
We just don't take responsibility. Right.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
Stephen, can we do this? This is kind of a backwards episode. We usually start real light and go deep. We started deep and went deeper. So I was prepared for my first question for you was, how do you spell Lowell?
That's great.
Because I have seen your posts on social media, your coffee cups, your pizza at Mod, your lunches.
Yeah.
Why can people not spell your name? Is it that hard?
Well, I don't think
what's the problem?
Quite that hard. It is old school. I always have the hashtag old school names, and every time that cup comes out, right, I think, why would my parents name me this? Like, what before they even saw my face did I do that they would place this moniker on me? Right? And I always thought, it must have been someone really important that they named me after. No, this is, just liked it. Let's see if this guy can survive that. Yeah. But it's Lowell, and
you've had LOL,
LOL, LU, LEU, LYLE. I've had Lionel, Larry.
He's got posts all the time of.
Somebody actually made me a tumbler. People on craft people make these tumblers. They took a very widely known coffee franchise, took their moniker, their symbol, made me one of those cups, and then on the other side went on my social media and took all the names with them crossed out. Awesome. And then finally, but that's so outdated now. I've added so many new names to that.
All right, let's fly through these questions.
Thank God they don't ever ask your last names.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They don't know kidding.
But I was the kid that even in grade school, like anytime the substitute came in, what did the substitute teacher always do? Would pick up the paper and be like, I'm going to take attendance. And I was just
read through all the names.
No. And they, and I could always know. Like,
when it's yours.
Yep, it's coming to my name, because they'd stop. And it's just like horrifying.
What's your first memory of Missoula, Montana?
My first memory of Missoula was, I'd say the big white M on the mountain. I moved here from Linden, Washington, the northwest corner of Washington State, and driving in, seeing that big white M, thinking it was for Missoula. And then, of course, where you hear all the stories. No, it was actually for Missoula Sentinel. No, it's actually for the U of M. It's like, but it was that big white M on the side of the hill. And then we moved here on December 29th of 92. And I remember seeing that there was not enough snow to cover up the whiteness of them, but then the mysterious L. I was like, what in the world? Like, what? Must be for me. Oh, I have been called Lolo. I've had
You've
that
been called
stuff.
Lolo.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've had Lolo.
Makes sense. Favorite coffee shop in Missoula? What's your
I
go-to?
knew this question was coming, and it's going to put me in a place here because it was Big Creek,
Ooh,
and then they closed.
yeah.
Oh, I didn't know they closed.
Yeah. And so I would say Copper Mountain white coffee. Their white coffee
White
is. Have you had the white coffee?
I've not had the white coffee.
What?
Have not had the white coffee at Copper Mountain.
Have you?
Nick? No.
we're
No?
over 3.
I've heard it. Oh,
Really?
yeah.
You just order a white coffee.
White coffee.
That's all I say.
Don't add anything. Like they're going to want to add the flavors, like man up, right? And have it.
Okay. Just
But don't order it. Hey, I want white coffee black because that makes no sense.
Okay.
Just get the white coffee.
Just a white coffee.
So, when they roast the coffee bean,
Okay.
the darker they roast it, the less caffeine.
Mm-hmm. I
You know,
did know
people
that.
are like, oh, I want that dark roast. I need more. I need a punch. I'm like,
Yeah.
read up on it. But so white coffee
White
is
coffee.
actually roasted white, not to where it's the dark. And so it's very nutty.
Okay.
I can't believe you haven't had a
16-ounce
white
white coffee.
We'll go
Okay.
here after
Copper Mountain.
It's a great day for a white coffee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, driving in on the winter road conditions on whatever,
Middle of June.
17th. Oh my God.
What's your favorite restaurant?
Oh man, 1889.
Solid. It is. Yeah.
And if I'm really hungry, the Big Tomahawk. Have you had that?
I've had the big tomahawk.
Oh,
I've had that one. Have you
with
had
the
it?
bone marrow.
Yeah. So good.
Have you had the bone marrow?
I have not had the bone marrow. You just give me the same look as the white coffee. Just brewing a coffee and heading to
It's a disappointment.
1889. I know.
Oh, get the bone marrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
What zip code do you live in?
59870.
Stevie?
It is. Although
How did
we're
Yeah.
much closer to
you're on the Florence end or the
Yeah,
Victor.
much closer.
How'd you get on the Missoula podcast? Who'd you pay off?
bitter? You're one of them.
I
You're a
am.
bitter. Do you have a 13 on your
I
license
do
plate?
not. Specifically, specific instructions when my wife went to title that car. Like, listen, pay the extra. Pay the extra. We're not going to get 13 on there. But the cool thing about Stevensville, when I was a senior in high school in Sydney, we actually faced off against Stevensville for the state championship. And a local newspaper from here wrote an article, and the article was titled, "Where in the Hell is Sydney, Montana?" And that made its way over to us. And it was up and down the hallways of our school. And
Bulletin board material.
it was 82 below wind chill for that game. And Stevensville drove home and had to hang a 41-0 loss for that state championship. And I actually got, when I started at the sheriff's office as their chaplain, I actually got to meet the quarterback for that team.
And he knows exactly where Sydney, Montana is.
Well, yeah, I should have asked him that question, but I did ask him the question because we were at a officers award banquet, and somebody introduced me to him, and the name rang a bell. And he used to be at the sheriff's office, and he said, "I'm originally from Stevensville," and I got a smirk on my face. And I said, "When did you graduate?" Which is probably not, when you just meet someone.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not
how
cool.
old
but-
are you? Yeah.
Yeah. So I go, "When did you graduate?" And my smirk, my question, he knew. And he looked at me and he said, "Expletive you." And I said, "Oh my gosh." And that built a beautiful friendship, ongoing friendship as we've moved.
So great.
But I actually gave him, my wife actually took the VHS copy that I had and transferred over to DVD. So I gave it to him that year for Christmas.
How kind of you.
Oh, it was, I mean, the least I could do.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
What to you is the weirdest thing about Missoula? The whole mantra, keep Missoula weird.
I guess it's that. The weird thing. Grown up, I'm like, not that I want to necessarily fit in, but I certainly don't want to be weird.
Yeah.
And I get it. I mean, I get in a way they're trying to say unique, but we've got our challenges here in Missoula. Our offices are in Missoula. I guess that's what maybe got me on the podcast.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Makes sense. We didn't know.
But I think that's probably. Yeah.
What do you love the most about Missoula?
University of Montana Grizzlies
Go
football.
Grizz.
Oh my gosh.
Go Grizz.
Like, I want summer so bad. Like, those that are listening, when you listen, I don't know when you listen to this, but we are in the middle of a winter storm watch right now in June. And we are, like, I've got a boat that's sitting in my yard. Like, I can hear it. Like, what is my purpose? I want warmth so bad. Like, a stretch of even 2 weeks, just a stretch of 2 weeks of, like, I want to complain about it being too hot. I really do.
Oh.
I don't want my wife to text me going, is it okay if I click the heat back on in the house?
We
Like,
bumped the heat up last night.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you got to survive, right? I mean, we got to survive. And I don't even know where this question is going.
It's all right.
Montana Grizzly football.
Yeah.
You're ready for football season.
Oh, but I don't want to say that out loud, which you just did, because, it's like, at the sheriff's office, I know now that I don't walk in the sheriff's and I'm like, hey, is it a quiet day? Because they look at you, it's like, what'd you just say?
Yeah.
There's certain things you don't say. But I can't wait till, I don't know. I get in there and I feel like I'm 15 years old.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just, you can forget about what's going on for 3 hours and scream and holler like a maniac, knowing that, thinking or believing that you've got some part to play, But yeah, that's the part I love the most.
Any book or mentor that's had a profound impact on you more than the rest?
There's a book, and I tell people all the time, if you've not read this book, you're stealing from yourself. The book is called The Gift of Fear by Gavin de Becker. And the whole premise of the book is that you have an inner voice that constantly is there to guide you in risky and in rewarding situations. The problem is that we have silenced that voice, either by disbelief or ignorance. And whether you're a CEO, whether you're a father, you're a mother, whether you're an athlete, that when that inner voice screams out, first thing is, how do we listen to it? Secondly is, how do I believe it? And third, how do I act upon it? And so our staff, like, I tell my staff, you should read this once a year, if not more.
Mandatory.
It's not a book that you like sit down and be like, oh, I read that whole thing in 2 nights. No, for me, I'm not a great reader. My wife's a speed reader. Just infuriates me. Because she can just read, right? And she's flipping pages, and every time she flips that page, I'm like, she's doing it to spite me. She's doing it to spite me. I'll read a whole page and go, did I read that page? Because I thought about 10 things that I needed to do today, and I read the last word of that page, and I don't remember anything. But that book, I've absorbed that book. That's a good one.
The Gift of Fear.
The Gift of Fear.
Yeah. Brandon, I think we better have Lowell back again to tell his story. I know we talked about a lot of what you're passionate about and what you're doing. Maybe not passionate about, but what you're doing. I just want to thank you for coming in and what you're doing, despite,
How I feel
how
about
you
it.
feel it. You'd rather be doing other things. I know that, but I do want to thank you for coming down. This was a really heavy episode. It was a really necessary episode, and it was very scary to me,
Yeah.
being a dad.
Yeah.
But I just want to thank you for, leading the charge in some way.
You bet.
Yeah.
If you have information about a potential human trafficking situation, call or text the Montana Human Trafficking Hotline at 1-833-406-STOP. That's 1-833-406-7867. And for more information about the Lifeguard Group, check out their website, thelifeguardgroup.org, or find them across all social media channels.